Hey everyone, I'm Grace and welcome back to MS, My Baby and Me. Today, we're really lucky to be joined by Dr. Ruth Dobson, an MS neurologist with extensive research experience in pregnancy, postpartum and MS. And she's going to answer some of the questions from the community.
I'm Ruth Dobson. I'm a neurologist and researcher looking at MS. And one of the areas that I'm really interested in is MS and pregnancy, and really trying to look at this to get better care for women with MS around pregnancy.
All these questions are from the community, so from people like myself who are postpartum or going through it or about to go and do it. So the first question, Ruth, is, do you have to stop taking DMTs when you are trying to conceive whilst you're pregnant and if you are breastfeeding?
So not necessarily. It's a huge area. There's a huge amount of information about this, and the information changes, and every time we try and write something about this, the information changes, even between the writing and it being published. I think really just to say some general things. So you don't need to stop all DMTs when you're trying to conceive during pregnancy or postpartum. It's a really individual decision, and it depends on so many things. It depends on which DMT you're on. Some you definitely do need to stop. They can be harmful to the baby. Others, there's more leeway, and some we know are pretty safe. So it depends which DMT you're on. It depends on how active your MS is, and it depends on really weighing up those risks and benefits. So what are the risks of being on a DMT to your baby versus what are the risks of stopping that DMT to you as the mum? What might happen to your MS? So there are some kind of absolute rules. So if you're on fingolimod on Gilenya, you must stop that before trying to conceive, for example. But the number of absolute rules is quite low. And so it's really about a discussion about what's right for you.
Okay, so the next question is, what common signs should mothers with MS look out for that may indicate they need more support for their mental health during a postnatal period?
So I think, as everyone knows, the postnatal period is a really, really hard time for lots and lots of women. We know that postnatal depression is common, and it's we're quite bad at picking it up quite often, but also that when people are having trouble with their mood postnatally, it might not just be depression. It can present in ways that you might not have experienced before, or people aren't looking out for. So lots of anxiety, lots of worries, and this can all be made worse by lack of sleep, by the stress of having a new baby. When you feel that things are not going well, it's always best to ask. It's always best to speak to your health visitor, to your GP, maybe to your MS nurses, to anyone that you feel that you can talk to about these feelings. Because, the postnatal period, it is hard, it can be hard, but you mustn't feel that you're alone, or that that you can't manage, because there are lots of people there who are able to help. I think the other really important thing to say is it's really treatable. It's really treatable. There are lots of treatments that are safe in breastfeeding. So it doesn't necessarily mean the end of breastfeeding for women that want to breastfeed going on to treatment. There's sort of talking therapies, and there's also pharmacological treatment, but it's really important to get treated and to let somebody know that you are struggling.
So third question. Oh, this isn't a relapse related one as well.
Yeah.
And this is very useful to myself. Is there any link between postpartum hormone changes and MS symptoms?
So the jury is still slightly out on that. I suspect, the hormone changes, the lack of sleep, all the physical changes that your body is going to go through, that's going to make your MS symptoms potentially feel quite different. We also know that there's an increased risk of relapse particularly in those first 3 months postpartum. Probably most people with MS will know that if you spend 2 months getting no more than 45 minutes of sleep in a go, your MS symptoms are going to feel pretty bad.
Yeah, they're going to be pretty intense.
Yeah, so it's a really intense time. And I think it's sometimes trying to disentangle relapse from symptoms getting worse can be really hard. But and again, that's where your MS team can help.
Does the hormones remain in your body if you breastfeed?
So if you breastfeed, your hormonal changes are different from if you don't over those 3 months. Breastfeeding does change things, but sort of teasing out the difference between sort of breastfeeding on demand and then mixed feeding, so where people are both breastfeeding and giving formula, teasing out the differences in the hormonal state between those two is really difficult, because it's, you know, it's not either breastfeed or not. There's a huge continuum of what people do.
Because I went straight back on my drug. I'm on Ocrevus, and
Yeah.
I didn't breastfeed. I took drugs and I went straight back on Ocrevus. Sorry, babe. Formula's just as good. You do that.
I think you do what's right for you as a pair. You know, you do what's right for you as mum baby. There's no wrong answer.
No, that's so true. That's so true. There's no right or wrong way to do this. It's all like, the way that I think of it is you do you.
Yeah, you do you. And there's so much, you know, out there about, well, you've got to do it my way because my way is the right way and no other way is right. And, you know, there's all these problems that you'll cause. And I just feel like sometimes that newborn period, there's so much guilt about making the wrong choice. Maybe we need to reframe it slightly and think, well, what's the right choice for me?
Yes. Yes.
What do I need to do? Not what is everyone else telling me?
So another question is, what should new parents, well, this is actually very useful for me and my husband right now. What should new parents expect from different health teams and how they might work together to support us through this time?
In the UK, the way things are set up is that after your baby's about a week old, the health visiting teams take over the kind of coordination of care for mums and babies. The health visitors are sort of charged with providing support and coordinating that kind of care. So, you know, if your baby needs to see a paediatrician or something like that, that can go through the health visiting teams, or via your GP if they feel that's more appropriate. Your MS team obviously will be involved, and they should be involved. But they're not sort of experts in the baby so much.
I just wish there was a bit more for mothers with MS. Like, you know, the joining of those two people, a neurologist and your pediatrician or your, you know, gynecologist or whatever. There just seems to be such a grey area. Nobody knows anything of the other thing.
I mean, that's a big problem. There's a huge grey area, and I think it's a huge grey area during pregnancy as well, because there's like a significant number of women will be having their pregnancy care in a different hospital from their MS care, and the two teams may never talk. No. And that's just, you know, that it's just wrong from the beginning. So trying to think maybe when you're pregnant about, well, you know, if I need to get in touch, how do I do it? Sort of speaking to people proactively about, you know, maybe, you know, saying to your neurologist or MS nurse, if you see them during pregnancy, well, if I have a relapse, what do I do? How do I get in touch? So then that's already set up, because the last thing you want is that, you know, when you've had no sleep for a week and you're feeling awful, to be trying to navigate that. So maybe trying to get that roadmap sort of clear in your head before
it all begins,
before it all goes wrong.
Yeah. Like, does what you're working on, because you're developing like a register,
yes,
and could that help with what we were just talking about?
So I'm developing an MS pregnancy register. Really kind philanthropic donation to try and help get this set up. It's a really exciting project, and it's really got two big aims. So you know, the first one, the sort of research one, is to actually collect information about what's happening with MS pregnancies across the UK. So we don't even know how many women with MS are getting pregnant, what's happening, you know, what are people being advised about disease modifying therapy, what supplements people are taking, are women with MS having lots of mood problems that aren't being properly addressed, all of those kind of things. But then equally important is actually the thing about giving information and trying to help women with MS who are either thinking about pregnancy, who are pregnant, or who are in that postnatal period, really try and get high quality information.
That would be so helpful to so many women if that all came together.
If anybody wants any more information about pregnancy register, just say, because we're sort of, as I say, we're getting stuff together, and if people got questions they want answered via it, then we're always looking for input, so do speak up.
So thank you so much for watching, and I found it really interesting, and I hope it was really useful and interesting for you also. And I look forward to seeing you again on another video.